So today we have one before last meeting on this book, Between Heaven and Earth. We should be able to finish chapters 37 and 38. And last month, João will finish with the last chapter 39 and then a prayer that is very, very nice in this book. I wasn't here last month, but we saw that on chapter 36 and 35 and 36, we see the process of the starting of the recovery of most of the individuals in this book. And especially, we see the complete recovery of Amaro after all his misguided judgment, after he go through such a period of having so much hate. Now he's completely adjusted with goodness, with love, and has been an inspiration for Mario Silva. And Mario Silva, with assistance of Antonina, have also start at a full speed his process of redirection of his sentiments towards love, towards goodness. So much so that we saw that in chapter 36, Zumira was extremely used. Zumira is, just recapping, wife of Amaro, the mother of Julio, that on his second reincarnation, as we know in this book, died because of croup. It was a very deadly upper respiratory infection. And he discarnated on that, basically in the hands of Mario Silva de Zanos, trying to treat him, and Mario Silva was feeling extremely guilty for that death, which he was not responsible for, but because of his ill sentiment towards both Amaro and that child, that he could not explain why, and we know why from previous reincarnations, he was extremely guilty. He was helped first by Antonina, who redirect his thoughts, gave him a pretty good lesson in pride, and also by Amaro when he went to visit Amaro, and there's the father of Julio in this second and first reincarnation, as we know in this book. And Amaro showed so much love, so much humbleness, that completely broke down the hate that Mario Silva had towards him and that family, and really redirect that hate and turned into admiration, and why not say love. And Mario Silva offered his own blood to provide a blood transfusion to Zumira, which was exactly what she needed to recover the health of her organic body, as suggested by the doctor who went to visit the house in the previous chapter. So we ended the chapter 36 with Zumira feeling a whole lot better after the blood transfusion. Mario Silva and Antonina had become family of the family of Amaro and Zumira and the children. And now let's see what happened on chapter 37, readjustment.
Okay.
Just a minute.
Okay. Chapter 37, readjustment. After our friends had left, Lorenzo surrounded Zumila with special care by giving her comforting passes. The blood transfusion had done wonders. Little by little, her four centers were settling down. Ever since Julio's discarnation, the poor thing had not enjoyed as profound of a rest as she did now. Our instructor asked Odelia to prepare little Julio to meet his mother again. Zumila would be taken to him to renew her energies. While our sister was off fulfilling this mission, Lorenzo said optimistically, "A comforting dream is a blessing of health and joy for our incarnate brothers and sisters." We were about to respond, but the patient, as if it were under deep hypnosis, got up in her spirit body and stared at us in amazement. The look in her surprisingly lucid eyes spoke of her maternal anxiety. Lorenzo stroked her hair as if she were his daughter, urging her to remain calm and trusting. He was surrounding her in tender conversation when we left. Borne up in our arms, Zumila volatilized without realizing it. I noticed that the magnificent spectacle of nature had not gotten her attention. Her mental screen was occupied only by Julio's image. La de Recao looked marvelous. Flowers of rare beauty decorated the road and immersed it in a gentle fragrance. Here and there, sweet melodies filled the air. The blazing glory of the sky introduced us to a prayer of reverence and praise to the Heavenly Father. But due to her inner torture, poor Zumila seemed untouched by the magnificence of the surroundings, making me realize once more the true paradise of the soul resides where love is to be found. I could see that due to her loving devotion, the surroundings did not matter to her. In light of that tormented love, asking her anything would have been futile. I think that if instead of the glorious light of La de Pecao, we had seen only darkness, for that suffering mother's spirit, the scene would still have been like paradise if she could hold her unforgettable little one in her arms. Who can rightly define the impenetrable secrets that God has placed in hearts that love? When we went into the nursery where the boy was sleeping under Odilia's and Barandina's selfless watch care, the suffering mother would have tried to throw herself on the sleeping child if Lorenzo had not delicately restrained her, warning her paternally, "Zumila, don't okay."
Okay, so the title of this chapter is Readjustment. And again, after Zumila received a blood transfusion, the physical body improved tremendously. And the blood transfusion, and that blood was given by Mario Silva, the one who had so much ill sentiments towards that family, have really redirected his thoughts with Amaro help and primarily Antonina's help. And from someone who had a hate inexplicable by him in this reincarnation, could not say how and why, but we know on past reincarnations, it was really transformed. And Zumira feeling a lot better physically, is still needed the readjustment of the spirit of the sentiments. And Clarencio suggests that she should go and see Julio in La da Benção, the spirit colony for children, where he was before this last reincarnation and return right after his discarnation back to the same place to be cared by the same two women that he was being cared before. And he states that comforted dream is a blessing of health and joy for our incarnate brothers and sisters. I think everyone has had experienced times in our lives and when we wake up with a different disposition, or somehow we feel more optimistic about resolving issues that you have to resolve, about facing challenges with more decisiveness, with a positive attitude towards this sort of things, with a energy that we may conclude that a good night's sleep does that for us, right? And indeed, it's true. But very often, that good night's sleep is associated with a good experience in the spiritual world as well, that we may call it a dream, and Clarence's call is a dreaming. I think the things that we don't realize that the good spirituality does for us, our mentors, our loved ones in spiritual worlds, our guardian angels, providing us those experiences in the spiritual world that helps us to wake up better disposed to resolve issues, not to resolve them for us. It's our cross that we have to carry, but to give us the strength and give us guidance, giving us direction for a better solution of things in our physical life. And that was opportunity given to Zumira to do exactly that. And I was thinking, I was reading here, did it have to wait until, and again, I'm putting that as a question, I don't have an answer. It's a question for us to think about it, okay? Well, not before. Was it necessary to wait until the physical body was in better shape for Zumira to have that experience? Could be, and again, it's a question. I don't have an answer. I'm putting out there for us to think about it. Could be that that physical body was such a disrepair, in such a tremendous level of stress that the absence, partial absence of the spirit could be dangerous, could be harmful. I don't have an answer, but I was thinking, why would Clarence wait until the health of the physical body was somewhat restored, right? To me, something that was to think about and perhaps find an answer which I did not found on my readings. But I think that there is a degree of danger that the physical body would be exposed. It's already so debilitated, so weak, so much so that it needed a blood transfusion, that removing some of the energy that is always there when the spirit is more connected to the body would have a negative effect. Okay, I'm not saying that that is an absolute, but I kind of suspect, at least to erase that possibility, that Clarence had to wait until the body was in better shape, able to allow the physical body to take the spiritual perispirit to go partially away for some time. But interesting that Andre Luiz noted that it brings out all this bucolic view, very romantic and poetic view of the experience, moving from the physical realm where they were and traveling to La Benson and going to this beautiful place with flowers and the good smell of flowers and harmonic melodies in the air, and kind of thing that it's, in general, you should really appreciate and be in awe and being grateful to be experience those moments. But Sumira was so locked in mind to Julio that she could not appreciate anything. The only thing he had in mind was Julio. And that makes me think, this is not a case of it, okay? But makes me think on the negative side as well, in the case of the individuals with mono ideas, individuals who is so zeroed in one task and one task only, and unfortunately, very often what you see in that is for desire for revenge, someone who hates so much and believes so deeply that he or she is in the right of seeking revenge, of making justice to their own hands, that nothing else makes sense to them. We see that in our mediumship meetings, spirits who are not able to perceive nothing else because their mind is completely consumed by one single objective, one single thought. there is this, within the single-minded individuals that in extreme cases developed what we call the ovoids, in which the species even lose its human shape and gain like an ovoid-like shape of the perispirit. Not that case, absolutely not. But we see here that how powerful our minds is that we can completely lose opportunities of enjoy things that are extremely beautiful, not seeing anything. It's a kind of power that Andre Luiz don't put over here just by chance. And when he says that what is it over here? Let me see here. I lost what he says. That basically we don't know what really is in people's heart, right? Oh, it says here, who can rightly define the impenetrable secrets of God has placed in hearts that love? There are things that we are not able to appreciate in our loved ones, what is truly in their hearts. And that was the case of Sumira over here when she has the opportunity to go see Julio and Lada Benson. Her only thought was that, so much so that she could not enjoy the trip itself. She was only think on the final destination and lost completely the beauty of the trip. I think it's an alert for us to not allow ourselves to become so one single mind, on single idea, that the trip very often is more important than the final destination itself.
Mm.
Comments, questions? Okay, so when he got over there, she sees Julio in the nursery with Odila's, that was his first mother, as you know, in the previous reincarnation, and Blandinas, who is a worker in that Lada Benson. And she, out of anxiety, out of passion, that's not really love, it's more passion, and she tries to jump right in there and take him, and Clarence had to warn her, Sumira, don't disturb the little one if you really love him. So that's what I say. Out of passion, she's taking action, and when out of love, should not disturb. Okay, you have to make a clear differentiation here between love and passion here.
Yeah.
Love does not cause any harm. Love does not disturb. Love does not arouse torments. Passions can do that. And very often our love is contaminated with passion. And Clarence is making a very serious, giving very serious warning to Sumira, but of course, it's all of us.
Mm. Okay.
All right, any questions, any comment? Okay, let's continue.
Okay.
Just one thing, I cannot see the hands. Okay, so if anybody has any questions, so just speak up, okay?
Okay. Okay. Zumila, don't disturb the little one if you really love him. But he's my son, she cried, half out of mind. We know that Julio was sheltered in your lap while he was on the earth, and this is why we are your companions on this trip to soothe the grief. Still, don't let selfishness darken your your soul. A mother's love is a limitless treasure, of course. However, we mustn't forget that we are all children of God, our eternal Father. Calm down. Ask the Lord for the necessary resources so that your devotion may be a positive measure for your needy little one. Touched by these words, Zumila broke down in tears. Lovingly supported by Odelia, who was trying to lift her spirits, she recognized her and suddenly remembered the struggle they had gone through when the child had drowned. Remorse struck her again, and she pleaded, Odelia, please forgive me, forgive me. I can now see the hell I put you through when I neglected your son. I'm paying for my deplorable carelessness with tears. Please help me, dear sister. Be for my Giulio and the garden that I was not for yours. Odelia stroked Zumila's hair compassionately and replied, now settle down. Affliction is a fire that consumes us. Let's pay life with the tribute of our resignation. I lost it.
And kissing. And kissing.
Yeah.
Care on the eyes, she added. Wipe away the tears. Can you see that?
Wipe away. Okay, I got it. Wipe away the tears that lash you needlessly. Serenity is our road to spiritual reconstruction. Don't dwell on the past. Let's live in the present and do the best we can. But now, as I suffer the hardships of my trial, stressed Zumila in a better tone of voice, I constantly recall your little angel. Odelia held her close and led her closer to the sleeping boy, nodding toward him. She explained happily, listen to me, Zumila. My little one is your little one. This Giulio, here and now, was my Giulio of yesterday. Heavy depths from the past have forced him to accept the difficulties of the moment. In our present learning experience, his life was cut short twice so that he could more fully appreciate the blessing of the earthly school. Before Sumila's look of confusion, she added convincingly, the body of flesh is a garment that our Julio has used in two different ways via our intermediary. And smiling, so you can see that we are two mothers sharing one and the same love. We could see that the amazed Zumila wanted to respond, but the shock of the revelation seemed to have paralyzed her vocal cords. In the depths of her soul, something had obviously altered her emotive feel. She dried her tears and her eyes shone with more clarity. She looked like a living statue of inexpressible hope. She willingly let Odelia lead her to a nearby bed so that she can get the rest she needed.
Thanks. So Zubira finally sees the boy. He's warned by Clarence to take it easy, slow down. The boy is resting, need to rest, and you need to allow love to be accompanied by reason. Otherwise, passion, emotion will take over, and that is a dangerous thing. Remember again, the love is a verb, right? The verb is action. And love is action towards goodness to oneself, towards goodness to others. So therefore, any act that goes against being good to others is no longer love. Or it's contaminated love with emotions, with passions, with selfishness, with jealousy, whatever the case may be. But pure love is a verbal of goodness, and that's what Clarence is telling her here. Odelia is able to calm her down somewhat, remind her that serenity is our road to spiritual reconstruction. It's something that we need also to be aware of, that you need to act with calmness. So you allow reason to prevail. And we when we allow emotions to overpower reason, and then you get into a state of anxiety and we lose our serenity, and that is also always also dangerous. We end up making ill decisions. Zumira recognizing Odelia, but still not associating Odelia as the mother of the same Julio that she was mother as well, shows her true remorse towards the fact that she should be more attentive to Julio on that beach when he discarnate. Sorry, just a minute. And Odila, as we know by now, is completely free from any resentment, any hate. She's really had shown to us that she had truly, indeed, forgiven Zumira for that happened. So much so that Zumira is basically the one responsible for the reincarnation of Julio as the daughter of Zumira on that second reincarnation that I expressed in this book. Sorry again. And now Odelia takes the opportunity to explain that there is basically just one Julio in this story, that the same Julio that was Odelia's son that discarnated that beach is the same Julio that came back as Zumira's son and discarnate in consequence of the croup infection. And explains that our life is indeed this continuum of experiences, sometimes with the flesh, sometimes with the flesh. And that Julio needed to reincarnate and have short reincarnation of those true experiences because of depths in the past when she says, this Julio here now is my Julio of yesterday. Heavy debts from the past have forced him to accept the difficulties of the moment. In our present learned experience, his life was cut short twice so that he could more fully appreciate the blessings of the earthly school. Remember that Julio was suicidal in previous reincarnation, have seriously compromised his airway with the poison that he had taken, and his spirit was still traumatized from that experience, so much so that in order to bring full recovery, he would have short experiences, and both short experience in the physical world and both short experiences would be cut short due to airway problems. One, drowning, and the other one with the croup, which again is an upper airway infection that is very deadly. No punishment, but opportunity of learning and make reparations. And how is that expressed? More fully appreciate the blessings of the earthly schools. Of course, Zumira was a little bit confused. I mean, it's tremendous amount of explanations and knowledge to begin in such a short moment. It's almost the whole teachings of spiritualism in one paragraph here, right? The concept of reincarnation, the concept of the God's justice or the divine justice that we may know we do have entire books written on these topics, and Odila throws at Sumira's face at once. So of course, she'll be a little bit confused and amazed, and it's a lot for one to receive.
Mm.
But since we are reincarnated spirits, since we are gone to multiple reincarnations, there's something within us that allow us to make sense of those things, even if intellectually, conscience, intellectually we don't, but as a eternal spirit, we have some understanding of these topics. Zumira, I remember that although much better, is still recovering from a long period of illness since the death of Julio. Still needs some recovery. So Odelia present her a place for her to rest, and that's where we stop. Any questions? Any comments here? Okay, so let's continue.
Okay. Yes, now, she said to herself, surprised, I'm beginning to understand. Julio, that had been prematurely expelled from the physical experience by drowning, had returned to the world to make another attempt, which had also ended in just a short time. But why? Why? Her grief-filled mind was trying to grasp the secrets of time by projecting it into the remote past, but her dilacerated mind pained her. In reality, it would not be possible for her under these circumstances to make any incursion into the rim of her memories. Still, she was finally beginning to understand the eternal goodness that unites souls by the same bonds of toil and hope on the redemptive way. She recalled the cold animosity she had felt toward Julio shortly after her marriage to Amaro, and the unmanifested jealousy that she felt because of the attention Amaro lavished on him. She realized that by linking him to her maternal heart, divine providence had sublimated her sentiments. She now felt an inexpressible caring and an illuminated love for him. Her spirit thus transformed. She no longer saw Delia as a rival, but as a benefactor who had obviously witnessed her transfiguration. She entwined herself with Odelia in silent tears, as if she were a daughter trying to hide herself in her mother's arms. Truly touched, Odelia returned these loving manifestations by caressing Zumila's hair. She needs rest, said Clarencio. Any further remembrance at this point would only increase her mental conflict. Odelia let go, leaving Zumilia alone to get some rest, and followed us. As we said goodbye, the instructor advised her to leave Zumilia in the nursery for a few more hours. That way, her dense body would be more fully benefited by reparative sleep. We will return later to take her back home in a way that would ensure her overall improvement as much as possible.
Thanks.
Okay.
So again, Zumira not knowing anything, start make sense of things of this. Basically, the whole book that you read, right? It start to make sense to her, and she said they should start the beginning. The Julie had the premature expelled from the physical experience by drowning and returning to the world to make another attempt, which also had ended in just a short time, as we explained why, secondary to the trauma caused in his perispirit that deals with the parts of the airway, upper respiratory areas. And the repair of the perispirit would be done by developing physical bodies with problems in the airway that would remove the problem from the perispirit, pass it to the spirit, to the physical body, and when the physical body dies, the the perispirit will be a little bit better. Just a moment, I can something on my throat. Sorry again, something is stuck in my throat over here.
Okay.
Oh, so-
Okay.
yeah, okay.
Okay. Drink some water, Elmo.
No, no, I have water here. I've been drinking water like a camel.
Okay.
One of the question that we always have is why, right?
Yeah.
And of course, this will not be different. Why? And why is usually a very difficult question to answer because it involves things that we're not ready to deal with. The true answers, the full answer is something that maybe we're not capable to deal with emotionally or even intellectually yet. But she slowly start to have some grasp with the situation. Reality would not be possible for her under these circumstances to make any incursion into the realm of her memories. Still, she was finally beginning to understand the eternal goodness that unites souls by the same bond of toil and hope of redemptive way. She recalled the cold animosity she had felt towards Julio shortly after her marriage to Amaro and unmanifested jealousy that she felt because of the attention Amaro lavished on him. We see here when we speak of divine justice, and I truly believe the reincarnation is the greatest expression of divine justice and the expression of the forgiveness of God, that indeed God does not forgive because God is perfect, and forgiveness is for individuals, beings, things that still may have some resentment, may have some ill sentiments towards someone, and needs to forgive in order to recover from those sentiments. God being perfect does not need forgiveness. So forgiveness is for us. But the expression of the forgiveness of God, if God had forgiven one, would be in providing new opportunities. Opportunities to recover, of opportunity to repair, of opportunity to learn, and not repeat serious mistakes again. And very often those opportunities is done in association with individuals that had experiences in the past. And in this case here, it's obvious there's Zumiri start to make sense exactly like that. That all her animosity towards Julio, that although the drowning could not be fully responsible of Zumiri understands very well that her ill sentiments towards him, her jealousy that she had of him for the attention that Amaro gave to him, Julio as a child, led him to not pay enough attention to a child at the beach, and she felt extremely responsible for their death. So much so that she became ill, if you remember, after the first death of Julio. And that resentment was still there for reasons of the past, as you saw in the very beginning of the book. that web of relationships that placed all those individuals together in multiple incarnations. Everything started making sense to her. And we see here the new opportunities provided by God in this reincarnation that now Julie returns as Zumira's son. It all starts to make sense for her there, although she could not grasp the whole package of the multiple reincarnations of the past as it was given to us in this book. It would be too much for us, for her, it would be too much for each one of us to deal with. And secondary to this, the opportunity to be a mother of Julio completely even 180 degrees change her sentiments. And now instead of that resentment, that jealousy, that inexplicable dislike, not to call it hate, says that she now felt an inexpressible caring and an illuminated love for him. This is the process of the law of progress. This is the process of divine justice expressed over here. Completely redirect the same energy that once was of hate now is illuminated love for him. Zumira and Odilia now are attached by a common goal, a common love. Zumira and Odilia now have completely forgiven one another, especially Odilia towards Zumira. If you remember, Odilia at one point seek revenge against Zumira for holding her responsible for the death of Julio. But all that now is gone. And they show with truly touched Odilia return this loving manifestation by caressing Zumira's hair. It's a demonstration of a complete turnaround, a complete repair of the sentiment of both women towards one another. Zumira was take a place to rest. Clarence stays over here. She needs rest, said Clarence. Something that we see in our mediumship meetings as well. Quite often after a short dialogue with spirits, when we sense that the spirit has somehow opened him or herself to goodness, has understood something I had not understood before, has allowed the love that they have inside of themselves kind of flourish and put down the hate and animosity that they had when we started the conversation. They complain of feeling extremely tired and need to rest. Sometimes I think it's an excuse to get out of a conversation that has become a little bit too difficult for them, but in reality, is a true need for rest. Even as in spirit, we still need time and rest sometimes to reorganize our sentiments, our thoughts, and that is expressed in a tiredness that sometimes we cannot explain. That is the case of Zumira here. That again, she's still recovering from her illnesses. So Clarence asked her to let her sleep for a while, and he would come back and bring her back to the physical body after the rest that she needed. Any questions? Any comments? Okay.
Okay. We left, but would return shortly. When our instructor deemed it appropriate, we returned to La de Macau to restore our friend to her far-off nest. It was 9 a.m. when the patient under our watch care woke up in her physical body. As Zumila retook the denser cerebral apparatus, she could not describe the memory of her trip except as having been a wonderful dream. She had the distinct impression that she had seen Giulio somewhere and that this had certainly restored her peace of mind and trust. She felt lighter, almost blissful. Attending to her call, Evelina noticed that the improvement and gave her thanks to God. She brought Antonina and Isabel into the room. The widow had arrived earlier with her daughter with a big desire to be of help. The happy patient greeted them. She vaguely remembered last night and thanked Antonina for the care she had given her. She accepted a nourishing breakfast and felt so much better that she did not hesitate to tell Antonina about the feeling of renewal that had come over her. She was obviously sure that she had seen Giulio and had held him in her arms, but where and how, she couldn't say, and yet the happiness she was feeling was proof of the fact that she had reaped real benefits last night. Fortunately, the blood transfusion was a complete success, exclaimed Evelina, delighted. Yes, replied Antonina in agreement. That measure was great help, but I'm sure that Zumila really did meet Giulio again in the spirit realm, and that gave her renewed strength for the struggle. This faithful assertion was received by the patient with sincere joy. Do you really think so? She asked with glistening eyes. Sure, why not? There is no death as we understand it. Our dearly departed loved ones extend their arms to us from the beyond. I too have a son in the greater life and he has been an invaluable support. Zumila displayed uncommon interest in the conversation. There are times in our lives when we are punished by our hunger for faith, and Antonina was a radiant fountain of optimism and moral support. Evelina and Isabella went to another part of the house to do some cleaning, and the two friends began conversing more intimately. Antonina's help was truly providential, because when we left, we saw that Sumila, with soul restored by new hopes, showed the secure tranquility of blessed convalescence on her face.
Okay.
Okay.
So when the time was right, after Zumira got the needed rest in the spiritual world, lying in Larda Benson, Clarencio with Andre Luiz and his friend, I forgot his name, brought her back to the physical body, integrated her back with the physical body. And when Zumira, the expression used here is retook the denser cerebral apparatus. Of course, she could not remember everything, detail by detail. But she had the feeling of having had a wonderful dream. When you live partially in the physical body, go to the spiritual plane in a dream, you enter in a realm that speed is different, the time is different. So it's not possible to bring the full experience into memory to the physical body, because it has to be integrated into the physical brain for us to remember and be able to put in our conscience and tell the whole thing. You remember a great deal of it, part of it, or you definitely remember what is important. Otherwise, it makes no sense going there. We will apply the thing that we need to apply in our lives as an intuition, as an idea that comes to your mind, when in reality, this maybe from the experience that I had in the spiritual world, disengaged of the physical body, what we can call dreams. She has the distinct impression that she had been with Julio, and Antonina, who was at her side. Antonina went to the house and brought her kids. They now are, the two families are now friends, as we saw in chapter 36. And Antonina, remember that Antonina is an spiritist. They do the gospel at home. She reads Kardec. And she told Zumira that, yeah, that's absolutely, you spend some time with Julio there. That there is no death, it's just the physical body dies, but you continue to exist, and our loved ones continue to love us. And to give her own example, that she also lost no, right? Had a child that discarnated early, and that discarnated one continues to be an invaluable support to her. We can see here that Zumira is well recovered. We can see here that the two families have become really attached to one another. There's Evelina and Lisbela, both daughters of those two mothers, Zumira and Antonina. Went doing some cleaning in the house and really friends. And you can see the importance of knowledge, of the understanding that Spiritism brings to us. Naturally, you have to associate that knowledge into transform it into actions. Naturally, you have to apply what we learned. Otherwise, it's just empty knowledge. But even just by knowing those things, it can be such a blessing for ourselves. And at times, we can pass this knowledge to others, can really lift up individuals, can really take individuals out of state of darkness, of depression, and provide a state of confidence and optimism that this doctrine brings to us. The idea of our eternity, the idea that our loved ones are not gone, the idea that we are able, and we do indeed interact with our loved ones, even when they do not have a physical body, it's a tremendous amount of support. And we see here how Zumira really benefit from the knowledge that Antonina has and share with her the moment of need. We end the chapter here. Anyone has any comments, any questions? If not, let's go to 38.
Okay. Marriage bliss. The storm of sentiments in the group of souls we were observing was waning bit by bit. Julio in the spirit world was no longer suffering as he waited for the right opportunity to return to the physical realm, and Zumira, under Antonina's beneficent influence, had recovered enough to return to the joy of living. Mario Silva, transformed under the young widow's guidance, had developed a strong bond with her and had grown used to her company. A solid friendship had been formed among the various characters of our story. They visited one another every week, which brought unspeakable pleasure to Evelina. In fact, she had become Antonina's ward. So great was the affinity that characterized their predilections and tendencies. Mario's domestic temple had been transfigured. Optimism had infiltrated everyone's hearts. They began taking walks on Sundays, and Silva, now part of the group, seemed to have returned to his original youthfulness. The social camaraderie had changed his outlook. He had lost the tacitudinity in which most single men are immersed. Lisbella had become strongly attached to him, and the brothers Gerardo and Enrique had made him the confidant of all their childhood plans. Amario and Zumila would often attend the gospel study in Antonina's home with love and respect, and would leave afterwards, edified and happy. They admired Antonina's more and more, and using his limited abilities, Amaro began to do what he could for the two boys' initial education, although he involved Mario in all such endeavors. One bright Sunday morning, we were visiting Amaro's home to check on Zumila's health when Silva arrived to wait for Antonina and her kids. The whole group had planned on having a picnic lunch in a nearby park. The minister looked pleased and commented, "Thanks be to Jesus, our young healthcare worker has really improved. He is happier, more accessible, well-disposed. One could say that a revolution has broken out within him." I asserted in agreement. Love is like that, a power that changes one's destiny. Perhaps because Hilario smiled mischievously, Lorenzo continued. When we were involved in helping Ronaldo Paez, I was able to consult the plan traced out for Antonina's reincarnation, and I know that she has promised to collaborate maternally so that he can receive a new physical body. As Lola Ibarrue, she was the cause behind the poisoning that exterminated his inner peace, a wrong that she now hopes to right. She will welcome as the son of her heart, the one who was her companion in irresponsibility in the past, leading him to a higher order of instruction. This comment really moved us. Amazed, Hilario responded.
Yeah, that's right.
That way, Silva. But Clarenzo cut him short. Silva and Leonardo are entwined in complex mutual depths. For a long time now, they have cultivated the thorn bush of reciprocal aversion, now caught in the web of blood kinship. We hope they can be re-educated. No one could avoid the law. As if his mind were taken in our conversation, connected to us by the invisible wires of thought, Mario tapped Mario on the shoulder and said to him, "Listen, Mario." Okay. Stop here?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Thank you. So, well, by the title Marriage Bliss, we pretty much can predict what's coming next, right? Pretty much like a soap opera, and I have a comment on that later. But Julius was recovering again. Remember that he had two short reincarnations that allowed for reparation of the perispirit. There was serious traumatized secondary to his decision, exercising his free will as eternal spirit to cause such severe damage to himself, which required, at least as much as you know so far, two short reincarnations to initiate the process of recovery of that perispirit, but more important, of the eternal spirit to understand the blessing that it is, a reincarnation. The serious crime committed by voluntarily shorting a reincarnation, voluntary damage, a instrument that does not belong to you, as our physical body does not belong to us. It's an instrument that is placed at our disposition for our spiritual growth. And it is our responsibility to take the best care of it, to give it back to the real owner in the best possible shape. Of course, with the normal process of using this instrument for a while, it's not going to be back in absolute perfect condition. If you borrow a book from the library, you're going to return it the best possible shape as possible. It's not going to be looking brand new, because if you borrow and used and open and close and read and mark pages here and there, it's not going to be the same. But it'll be in the most best possible shape that you'd give it back. That's how you should take care of our physical bodies. And if needed, we will have opportunities to have multiple reincarnations to learn this valuable lesson. So Julio was on his way of recovery, getting ready for another reincarnation. Doesn't say over here how, with whom yet. Mario Silva again, under the assistance of primarily Antonina, doing the gospel at home with Antonina, integrated himself as someone who was much loved by her family, her children. He assisted her kids. And the two families had become very good families that enjoy each other companionship, doing the gospel at home with and at Antonina's house. Amaro had expressed that he was a Catholic, and Antonina had expressed that she was a Spiritist. But they both agreed that what they had in common was the most important thing, which was Jesus Christ. And they were able to learn from one another, which is, to me, a beautiful thing. A very important lesson for us these days. We are so polarized to understand that what we have in common is more important than anything else, than the things that separate us. Clarence makes a comment that Mario had really improved. Thanks to Jesus, the young healthcare worker has really improved. He's happier, more accessible, well disposed. I think more accessible is a very interesting comment that we usually say that help is always available. The problem is that we are not accessible to the help that is available to us. Help is always available to us, but we close ourselves in a way that those who want to help us cannot reach us. So this comment, more accessible, is a very important one, how we need to take time during the day to enter in a state of meditation, of prayer, whatever you want to call it, whatever you want to say, and make ourselves accessible to the help that is always available to us. If you enclose ourselves in a cocoon of resentment, of anxieties, of hate, we become not accessible to those who are there trying to help us. And I think that's very, very important. And then going back with the topic of serenity, calm down, relax. When you're anxious or you're tense, it's like a muscle being rigid that nothing can permeate it. When you relax, then you allow things to flow better. And Mario Silva had just become this individual that is now accessible to what's available to him. I think this is a very important comment to all of us. And another comment, love is like that, the power that changes one's destiny. And you can see that the change in Mario Silva is totally secondary to love. the expression of love of Antonina towards him, the display of love of Amaro, the humility of Amaro, is what really broke down Mario Silva. The relationship now of Evelina and Antonina is something else that deserves attention. And you see that Evelina is a more spiritualized individual. The very beginning, the whole book is because of a prayer that Evelina made to actually her mother, Odilia, who was actually the cause of all the distress in the house. But a prayer that was made with so much fervor, so much faith, with so much love, that was picked up by the good spirituality. And this whole process that became this book takes place. And Antonina equally is spiritualized woman who does the gospel at home, who introduced her children at a young age, who had suffered all the difficulties of a husband that abandoned her, the death of a loving child at a young age, and still is able to keep her spiritual values above all the distress that has happened. It is very likely that Antonina and Evelina would become good friends because, again, they vibrate at the same level, and there is that attraction of individuals who think alike and thoughts that arise from alike sentiments, of course. And when Clarence says loves like that, the power that changes one's destiny, Hilario, who is like Andre Luiz, disciples of Clarence, so to say, in this book, have a mischievous thought and have already predicted what was coming to happen. And Clarence commented that he was able to take a look in the reincarnation plan, so to say, of Antonina's. And again, just a plan, okay? It's not written in stone, can change, anyone can change their own destiny because we have a free will. But she notes over there that when he was trying to help Leonardo Pires, if you remember, Leonardo Pires is the one who was assassinated because of his love for Lola Ibaruri, who is now Antonina, in this web of relationships and reincarnations after reincarnations, that Antonina would receive the opportunity to assist Leonardo Pires. And if you remember the very beginning of the book, Leonardo Pires was always in that house. Leonardo Pires was there when Antonina was reading the gospel with her kids, and the talk was about forgiveness, and Haroldo was reading about forgiveness, and Antonina was teaching the value, the importance of forgiveness, and Leonardo Pires was kind of upset with that. Who's talking about this nonsense of forgiveness? He was still very angry and still with the idea that he had the right of making justice through his own hand. That was in the very beginning of the book, if you guys remember. So there isn't this entanglement of relationships of the past. Antonina's was Lola. What's his name again here? Mario Silva, who was, what's his name? Forgot his name, but was the one that was the one who killed Leonardo Pires. They are entangled in this relationship, and divine providence allows us the opportunity to be reunited, to repair and fix all the things they need to fix. And now they are entangled once again, and all for the good in the process of reparation, because again, no one can avoid the law. It says that Silva and Leonardo are entwined in complex mutual debts. For a long time, now they have cultivated the thorn bush of reciprocal aversion. Now caught in the web of blood kinship, we hope they can be re-educated. No one can avoid the law. So we can predict over here that Leonardo is going to come back in a new reincarnation in a blood kingship with Antonina and Mario. You would expect it to be the son of them, or daughter, I don't know, like last son. Any questions, any comment? All right, we can continue.
Okay.
Listen, Mario.
Okay. Listen, Mario, I have no right to try and interfere in your life, but since I regard you as my brother, I have been thinking about your future. Don't you think Antonina is a woman worthy of your ideal as a man of the good? Mario blushed and was speechless. His friend continued, ever since we became friends again, my respect for her distinctiveness has been growing. She has been a real blessing here in our home. She's still young and could help build a home that would be a sanctuary for your experiences. I've been really impressed by the sacrifices she has made as a young mother. But if she were married to you, she would stay healthy, and that would of course be invaluable to a lot of people. I already asked about her at the factory where she works. She's loved by everyone there. She has been a nurse for several co-workers and always a selfless sister. The supervisors praise her irreprehensible conduct. That is quite remarkable for a widow who is only 32 years old. Besides, I've noticed that her kids are united to your heart, as if they belong to you. Doesn't it pain you to see her face her battles all by herself? Maria had recovered somewhat from his shock and replied humbly, I know what you mean. I have thought about the possibility, but I'm not a young kid anymore. Well, that's why the present moment requires a plan. A home is one of the most valuable investments for the future. Even so, I think that heart beating in my chest is like a dying bird. Frankly, I feel incapable of feeling any passion. Now that's just plain silly, Amario joked. Happiness is nearly impracticable in impulsive loves that bubble up from the sentiments like illusory champagne and smile, he emphasized. 90 degrees in the shade passion between lovers is often just a wildfire that leaves only ashes behind. The more experience I get, the more I realize that matrimony is, above all else, a union between souls. I'm speaking with the wisdom of someone who has been married twice. Passion, dear fellow, is responsible for all the dollhouses that offer the satin spectacles wherever you go. True friendship is the real guarantee of a blissful marriage. Without the foundations of fraternal communion and mutual respect, marriage soon becomes a heavy chain and the prison of social appearances. Mario listened to these thoughts amid ecstasy and wonder.
Okay, so the family was getting ready to go to a picnic together. Again, that become a very close family and share many common interests. And again, especially what they had in common, what was Jesus Christ. And Amaro is speaking with Mario, noticing that there was kind of affection between Antonina and Mario. There is a tremendous harmony of the kids with him that Amaro felt that is almost like if they were the Mario's kids. Suggested why not? Formal the relationship with Antonina and in marriage is wonderful woman, still kind of young, 33 years old. It seems like Amara was spying on her, have a check in the workplace. Everybody loved her and gave all the wonderful qualities and all the good reasons for Mario consummated that relationship into marriage. But Mario, in the beginning, first gave the excuse of not a kid anymore, and more important, he put himself, I feel incapable of feeling any passion. To which Amaro replies, that's got to be kind of a joke. Happiness is nearly impractical in the impulsive love that bubble up from the sentiments like illusory champagne. When I always speaking of passion, make a difference of passion and love, that like many of us in this society we live today, we think we put passion above all things, about love, and Amaro, with his experience as a second marriage already, as a man who had experienced things, says that true love is what really matters. That passion is just like champagne bubbles, is gonna go away. You leave it open and eventually it goes away. And I think what he says over here in this paragraph, the 9 degrees in the shade passion between lovers is often just a wildfire that leaves only ashes behind. The more experience I get, the more I realize that matrimony is, above all else, a union between souls. I am speaking with the reason of someone who has been married twice. Passion, dear fellows, is responsible for all the doll houses that offer the shade, the saddest spectacle wherever you go. True friendship is the real guarantee of a blissful marriage. Without the foundation of fraternal communion and mutual respect, marriage soon becomes a heavy chain in the prison of social appearances. This is a very deep and heavy statement, and in my opinion, totally truthful. That if our association, the reason for established relationships with someone is based on passion, is based on things of the flesh, is based on social status, states of beauty of the physical instrument, that's going to go away. Those are all champagne bubbles. That's going to extinguish eventually. But only through a true friendship, and friendship is love. Friendship is love. Is what is the only thing that it can guarantee a real guarantee of a blissful marriage. Otherwise, it ends up nowadays usually into divorce. That's why half of the marriage in the United States doesn't last 6 months, because the passions, like champagne bubbles, extinguish quickly. Or, and at that time in Brazil would be the case, since divorce was not permitted, marriage soon becomes a half chain in a prison of social appearances. Since you cannot divorce, you become a prisoner of a failed relationship, and you have to pretend, you have to live with the social appearances. That's not the case anymore. I think today is better. The possibility of repair a mistake, of undo something that was not going well, and perhaps learn the lesson, applying this teaching over here for other relationships, hopefully. And here, Amaro suggests that what Antonina and Mario have in common is indeed a true friendship. They have the foundation that would allow them to have a loving relationship that would be good for both of them. Any comments? Okay, so I think we can finish the whole thing, because yeah, let's just finish the whole chapter now then.
Okay. Yes, he thought, ever since he had met Antonina that first time, he had felt her to be the ideal woman capable of understanding his soul. He had devoted himself to her and her 3 kids with immense caring and unsurpassable trust. That generous and humble home had incorporated his life. If he were forced to leave for any reason, there is no doubt that he would feel injured in his dearest joys. While Mario was sharing his thoughts, Silva was remembering and remembering. The image of Antonina was now occupying the recesses of his soul, of his heart. The bravery and humility with which the noble creature was facing the most difficult problems touched the innermost fibers of his being. Her continuous yet joyful sacrifices on behalf of her children, her natural detachment from the futilities that usually blind the female sentiment, the human solidarity with which she was able to carry on relations with her neighbor, and especially the crystal clear character that she exhibited in every situation of everyday life, seemed in that instant somewhat different in his imagination. Lost in thought, he seemed to be contemplating the rose bushes outside, indifferent to the external world. Several minutes went by like that, as if he relived and thought about the past. Then, as if he had awakened from a long mental escape, he looked his friend in the eye and agreed, Mario, you're absolutely right. I cannot disobey what life is ordering me to do. They were unable to continue, however. The widow and her kids had arrived, so Mira and Evelina welcomed them joyfully. We left our friends in the sweet turmoil of domestic intimacy and returned to our temple of service.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks. After all the speech of Amaro, Mario had an opportunity to think, as we often do. He basically recapped in a flashback what had happened to him, to his life since he met Antonina, and he realized that indeed he went from an ordinary person, someone with pretty much nothing in his heart, that now he had basically a family that he loved, have kids that he loved, and how this woman had motivated him to be a better person. And he finds out, it comes to realization that if he has to live his life minus Antonina, that would be a difficult thing for him right now. And he agreed with Amado that union in marriage would be very fruitful for all of them. The conversation was cut short. They got ready to go to their picnic things, and Andre Luiz left their home and went back on his work somewhere else. I doubt there's any comments here. I can continue.
Okay. Hundreds of questions were assailing our minds. But Clarenzo limited himself to saying, time is like a wave. It ebbs and flows. We must reap what we sow. A few days later, some of Antonina's spirit friends brought the good news of the engagement. Mario and the young widow hoped to get married a few days from now. We visited the future couple several times before the wedding, which we all waited for happily, acknowledging the gestures of friendship and love that they happily received constantly from the future bride and groom. Amario and Zumila offered their home for the ceremony, which on the appointed day was performed as a civil act amidst the most accentuated simplicity. A large number of spirits from our rim rushed to the railroader's home, including the discarnate nuns that held the healthcare worker in a particular esteem. Adored with roses, Sumila's home was buzzing with friends. Happiness just transpired on everyone's faces. That evening, nearly all the guests got together again at Antonina's house, and newlyweds wanted to pray in the company of affected bonds, thanking the Lord for the happiness of that unforgettable day. The humble abode was filled with loving and illuminated spirits, inspiring everyone with enthusiasm, hope, joy, and peace. Whoever saw that small home in all its expression of higher spirituality would say that it would be holding a nest full of joy and light. In the small, crowded room, an old uncle of the bride stood up and offered the prayer. Lorenzo approached him and stroked the head that the years had whitened, and his withered lips in the blessed heat of the inspiration with which our instructor enveloped his soul, prayed movingly to Jesus, asking him to help everyone in their obedience to his divine will. Tears of serenity filled our eyes. When the prayer ended, Lario and Enrique and Isabella, dressed in white, passed out liqueurs and sweets. Filled with emotion, we surrounded the newlyweds to say our goodbyes. As we embraced them, we saw Evelina, in the glow of her springtime youth, accept the loving company of a young man who seemed to have his heart set on her. The minister smiled and explained, "This is Lucas, Antonina's brother. He is a future typesetter in Sao Paulo. His fine spiritual upbringing will soon be connected with Evelina to carry out the endeavors awaiting her in the world." Cutting short the possibility of our asking too many questions, he added, "All is love on the pathway of life. Let us learn how to use it to glorify the good with our own toil. Everything will be a blessing." We left immensely happy, and because our responsibilities were calling to us from afar, we continue our way with our selfless instructor, trying to assimilate the precious conjugation of the verb to serve.
Okay, anyway, in this chapter, not much to add here from my standpoint. Mario and Antonina get married as expected by now. Have a simple but a spiritual ceremony. There's joyful to everyone. They start another soap opera with Evelina's meeting Lucas, and they also will follow the path toward spiritual progress. We see that their house is filled with spirits who care for both of them. It's a good reminder that all our activities is accompanied, and there's always our loved ones with us, when of course we open ourselves to them, and that was a joyful situation for everyone. It gives a flavor over here of, I'm not a fan of Hollywood at all, but this happy ending, everything has an happy ending. That the good guy suffers, and at the end it has a turnaround, and everything is beautiful, and they live happy ever after, right? But indeed, I mean, that is the goal, right? That's the objective, right? I mean, of all our struggles is to eventually be in absolutely harmony with the divine laws that we have in our conscience. And those divine laws are created for happiness in accordance to the Spirit's book. So therefore, indeed, all the struggles is to lead towards that happy ending. All the difficulties is provided to us to reach a true happy ending, which is not an end, of course, but it's to liberate ourselves from our traumas, of our ill sentiments, our hates, our desire for revenge, and transform everything into one thing that it's the essence of God within us, which is love. And that's what we see over here. So although it has this flavor of deep Hollywood cinema, deep soap opera, in reality, that's the way things should go, end up in a happy end. I think I went over a little bit. I'm sorry, guys. We'll continue next week. Carol, can you make a final prayer for us?
Yes, certainly. Thank you very much, Elmo, for hosting for us today, and to Sarita for reading for us today, and everybody who is here participating. Infinite Creator and Supreme Intelligence, we give thanks to be together again as brothers and sisters for our studies of the book Between Heaven and Earth, being Chapter 37 of Readjustment and Chapter 38, Marriage Bliss. Reconstruction and readjustment require serenity of the mental vibrations and the ponderings of the heart. The law of progress and divine justice operates impeccably to reunite souls for repair, redemption, love, and service. Benevolence, goodwill, and forgiveness will assist in the process of reconciling past difficulties and errors in order to reestablish harmony, hope, and recovery during reincarnation. Applying Spiritist knowledge can provide a positive state of outlook, optimism, and also there are many healing benefits for spiritual growth. Assistance is always available as we make ourselves accessible to uplifting help of the good spirits. We give thanks to the spiritual benefactors and the good spirits for guiding and inspiring us today. May we receive the love, light, and peace of Christ within us, and for our loved ones, our teachers, our directors, our counselors, the mediums, the workers, the healers, and all participants. We pray for inner peace, and especially now for world peace, and for those who are suffering in the physical and spiritual worlds. We pray for our center, SGNY, and all Spiritist centers throughout the world, that they may grow, prosper, expand, and be protected throughout the day and throughout the night. As we close, we humbly ask for safety and protection as we return to our family, friends, loved ones, and co-workers. May we remind ourselves to go forth now as beacons of love, of light, of peace, of service, and charity, which is love in action. May peace and love prevail. So be it.